It's never a pleasant feeling to lose at chess, especially in a very important tournament like the national championships. But sometimes you just have to tip your hat off for your opponent to play a great game. Now in this game, my opponent was Anderson Ang, one of Malaysia's most promising talents, and definitely one of the strongest positional players, if not the strongest positional player in Malaysia right now. So I open with the move e4, c5, knight f3, knight c6. This is all very standard. g6. Anderson loves these Maroczy structures, so it's no surprise we get a position like this. I placed the move queen b6. It's not a move I expected. I thought he was going to play more ambitiously, but as you'll see, he's okay with a draw. And obviously I'm not. I mean, being a higher rated player, having the white pieces, obviously I have to play on principle. So I simply played queen d2, knight f6 and f3. I'm defending this pawn on e4 and stopping any knight g4 ideas. Black plays d6, knight c3, bishop e6, rook c1, rook c8, bishop e2, and now knight a5. Bit of a surprise. I was expecting him to castle. So my initial idea was to play the move knight takes a5, queen takes a5, and b3. Now this would lead to quite a safe position, and I think this is what I should have done. But instead, I was tempted by another idea. I started looking for alternatives, and I saw this move knight to d5. And my point was that black is practically forced to enter this line with knight takes b3, a takes b3, bishop takes d5, and e takes d5. And I was quite happy with a position like this. The pawn on a7 is attacked, and he must play a5. Now I'm going to play rook a1, hitting that pawn. And after b6, I play the move b4, a takes b4, queen takes b4. And now the pawn on b6 is hanging. I've got two bishops and full control over the a file. And here I was only expecting the move knight d7, defending this pawn on b6. But this would give me everything that I could possibly hope for. After castles, I now have a very strong move in queen b5. So I'm tying down black's pieces to this knight on d7. So don't even think of rook a8, because now I can take and win that knight on d7. In addition, I'm threatening the move rook a7 right now. Looks really good, right? But here my opponent found a very strong move. He simply castled, and suddenly it turns out that I have no good way to continue. Firstly, I cannot take this pawn on b6, because if I take with a bishop, which was my first intention, then rook b8 is actually really terrible. For instance, if I play bishop takes d8, which is forced, then black plays rook takes b4. After bishop takes e7, rook e8, well, firstly bishop takes d6 would be a bit of a disaster, because rook takes b2, and it's impossible to defend this bishop on e2. So I have to play bishop takes f6 here, bishop takes f6, and a move like rook b1. But here, after the move rook takes c4, well, rook c2 is coming up, and it's clear that with black's control of the dark squares and its more active pieces, he's the one in charge. And queen takes b6 might have been a better try. But the issue is that after queen takes b6, bishop takes b6, and now simply rook b8. For instance, after bishop d4, there's knight d7. Takes, and black has a lot of compensation hitting this pawn on b2. Not to mention that black can also play knight d7 immediately, and now take the pawn on b2, which might even be stronger. So here I decided to continue with my old plan, which was to play the move queen b5. And this has the added advantage of stopping any breaks with b5. For instance, if we were to simply castle, then black could actually get this move b5 in, and it'd be very annoying for us. For instance, if we play queen takes b5, then rook b8, followed by rook takes b2 is pretty nasty. And if we play c takes b5, then knight takes d5 is even worse. So that's why I decided to physically stop this pawn playing queen b5, and I was quite pleased with this decision during the game. It seems like everything's under control. I'm gonna castle, and I'm gonna use the a file for myself. That is, until I saw my opponent's next move. He played this quite quickly as well. He simply played queen d7. So now he's offering the trade of queens. In fact, he's threatening to take on b5 and ruin my structure. So here, after queen takes d7, knight takes d7. Turns out that the bishop is attacking this pawn on b2, and it's not so easy to defend it. Now I was banking my hopes on the move rook a7, but black simply defended it with rook f to d8. And this was the moment that I first realized that I could be in serious danger. The fact is that black, having defended this knight on d7, now has a few threats. Firstly, he wants to take this pawn on b2, and he's also threatening to play a move like rook a8, trading off the rooks. I didn't see a good way to meet rook a8, so I decided to deal with this attack on b2. I simply played b4, and my idea was that after rook a8, I can simply take on a8 and play king f2. Yes, black has good control over the a file, but at the same time I have two bishops, very solid position, and if he attacks his pawn on c3, I can simply play rook b1. But instead, my opponent found a really nice idea. He gave a check on c3. Now the pawn on b4 is attacked, so I have to play bishop d2, and now a move that I didn't see at all, bishop d4. And this is a fantastic move because now black has a lot of ideas. In addition to his rook a8 idea, he also has a very nasty threat of playing the move b5. He also has knight e5 ideas to try to hit this pawn on c4. That's why I decided to play rook b7. So I'm stepping out of b5. This probably wasn't the best. Instead, I think I should have played the move king d1. And yes, this would allow b5 and black's gonna be a pawn up after some rook move and b takes c4. But I can still play king c2. And yeah, black's a clean pawn up, but I have a little bit of compensation in the sense that I have the two bishops as well as this passed pawn on b4, which I could dream of using to make some sort of counterplay. Instead, I decided to play the move rook to b7. Stepping out of b5 ideas. But this allowed black to take full control over the a file with the move rook a8. But that's not the biggest problem. Due to this monster bishop on d4, there is no way for me to activate this rook on h1, and my king on e1 can actually get into very serious trouble. And that's all because I can't play the move castles. So here I decided that I had to play the move f4. I was really worried about some knight e5 ideas and I wanted to activate my rook by f1 to f3. As we'll see, the rook's not going to make it there. Black played knight f6 using the newly created weakness on e4. So I played rook f1, rook a2. Now knight e4 is a huge threat, so I decided I had to stop it with bishop d3. Just to let you know, the move rook takes e7 is not very good because of the move king f8, and it turns out that black can now use the e file to great effect. For instance, if I play rook b7, can now give a check on a1, and after bishop d1, rook e8 check, I can resign. So after bishop d3, black simply played rook d to a8, as if one rook on the a file wasn't enough. Now two are coming. King e2, so I'm trying to get my rook out, but this is way too late. Black simply plays bishop c3, hitting the bishop on d2, and now I have to play rook d1, and here he simply plays rook to b2, threatening to bring his other rook onto the second rank and win my bishop for free. So this sort of forces me to play king e3, but now black simply gives a check on g4. King f3, hitting the knight, simply knight takes h2, king e3, he goes back, and after king f3, now it's time to cash in. Simply rook takes d2, takes, bishop takes, king takes g4. And it seems for the moment that white might just be surviving, except that black has to move rook a3. And in addition to the fact that my pawns are really weak, my king is actually in a sort of mating net. Bishop e2, and now h5 check, a really nasty move. So if I play king g5, then it's simply going to give a check on g3. After king h4, rook takes g2. It's going to take this pawn on f4, and the fact I'm losing the pawn is the least of my troubles, because rook h2 will then be some sort of checkmating threat. So in the game I decided I had to play king h4, but this was obviously a disaster. Black gave a check on e1, king g5, and now calmly king g7. Threatening mate in 1 with f6. And if I take on e7, then he can simply give a check on g3, and after king h4, another check on g4. This is a double check, by the way. And after king h3, that's a nice mate. So in the game I decided I had to play the move f5. Black gives a check with f6. And after king f4, bishop d2 check, it's all over. King e4, rook e3 check, winning the bishop. I simply played a few more moves out of inertia. I knew this was my last chance to actually place in national championships. But yeah, we all knew this was hopeless. King d3, rook takes g2, check, and king f8. Now I had to resign because, among other things, black's gonna play bishop takes b4 as if it wasn't enough pawns up already. There's simply no hope. So definitely not a pleasant game for me. Not a game that gives me very good memories, but sometimes you just have to tip your hat off when your opponent plays such a great game. So I hope you enjoyed this game. I hope you enjoyed my misery. And if you'd like to see some more of my games, then check out this video above. It was a much more memorable experience, at least for me. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye for now.